Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? About 1 minute away from getting kicked off here. Kicked off, I mean getting started. Not that I'm going to kick you all off, but if you don't turn your cameras on, I might. There we go. Morning, Kate. Morning, Vicki.
Morning.
All right, we'll give everybody a second because I know everybody's always on realtor time. Stuck in traffic, I'm sure. All right, let me pull up my slides for today. We'll get started. Who's something good? Who learned something yesterday? I hope you all learned a little something. Or who has questions in regards to what you learned yesterday? Or am I just that phenomenal of an instructor that I answered everything? I already know the answer to that, but that's okay. All right. Everybody see my screen okay? Slides on the screen, all right. Christine, you were looking good there. Don't go blank on me. This is one of those sessions where we keep our cameras on. You don't get to hide from Dave.
All right. Hi, Dave. Nice to meet you. I'll keep my camera on.
Awesome. Thank you. I know how much we all love to multitask and pretend like we're listening, but this is one of those sessions where I need to see everybody's eyes.
Sounds good.
And that goes for the rest of you too. Ice, Tiffany, Michael, Suvda. I like that. Suvda. Yesterday, we learned about tech orientation. Today, we're going to jump into contacts. Contacts is probably the heart and soul of everything that is command, right? So without your data bank, right, your contacts, your relationships, what do you really have? And people ask me that all the time. Well, how do you know if I got a strong database? Well, what does your relationships look like? It's beyond names, emails, and phone numbers, right? But it's how you communicate with them, how regularly you communicate with them, and do you have enough information to have a relationship, right? Because you are in the relationship business, right? You're all business builders, you're empire builders, right? How do you look at yourself and how you carry yourself matters, right? If you treat your database like it's Facebook, you might have some fun, you might shake the tree, you might get a little bit of business. But if you're purposeful about what you do, right, and you read the red book, which I keep on my desktop, right? You read the red book, and you'll understand leads, listings, and leverage, and everything that goes around our systems and models and tools that, the guy that literally wrote the book on real estate, right? Doesn't matter what brokerage you're with, everybody's read this book or had or will, right? And when we run command and we talk about relationships, it references a lot of things that we do in this book, which is now, I don't even know how old this book is, but it's still as relevant today as it is when Gary first released it and Jay first released it back in 2002. So we're coming up on 20 years of the Red Book. And if you haven't read it, I implore you to read it. If you read it only once, I implore you to read it again and think about it from today's leverage and today's model and how we run businesses today, because it is a little different about how we ran things 20 years ago. At its core, we're still relationships business, but we have a lot more technological leverage than we did back then. So how we do it, technologically speaking, tracking is different. The relationship has not changed. You still got to pick up the phone, still got to talk to people, right? As much as we talked yesterday about venture capital and those other companies that are trying to disrupt this industry and try to chuck us as a commodity, it's not. There are too many things that happen in the background to build a business, to purchase a house from a trusting standpoint, especially in our hyper crazy market that we're in right now, that cannot be replaced by information and data on a TV screen. It just doesn't work, not well. So how and who and when matters. So when you are building your database, the amount of information, I am recording, the amount of information that you have in your database and who you're talking to is important. Now, I'm not saying you got to have 15,000 contacts because I think that's a bit much. But I'll tell you this, if you had 100 people, and I think that's too few, but if you had 100 people, and I don't mean generically 100 people, I mean 100 people that would kill to refer you business, because that's what you need. You need raving fans, right? those that know, like, and trust you. And the moment the word real estate comes up in their world, they're cutting people off in line to say, you got to talk to Kate or you got to talk to Ruby. They're our person, right? You got to be the people's person. And that's grammatically incorrect, but I'll deal with it, right? You have to be their person when it comes to real estate. And the only way is to be there for them. Now, what you will find in real estate, you will wear multiple hats, right? You're not just representing somebody in a transaction. If you look at it that way, you're going to lose in the long run. You may close some business, but you have to think generationally. Can you think generationally? Can you think, I don't want to just sell Vicky a house. I want to sell Caleb and Ethan a house, right? Do you think that way? If not, you should. Right? It's a crazy way to look at it when we talk about generational business, right? Establish those relationships. And I've done that. Like, I have sold parents and kids, and now their kids, like, I've been in business 14 years now. Now their kids are almost old enough and graduating college to start having the conversation about buying real estate. And I know that I'll be there for them, or I'll refer them to somebody because they're going out of the area, they're from somewhere else, right? But if you are that trusting person in their world, they'll ask you all kinds of questions that are above and beyond representation and transactions, right? Who do you know that can help us refi in the world that we're in, right? Because we've been in our house 7 years. Interest rates for us when we purchased were over 5%. Now we know they're under 3%. Are you keeping your consumer base up to date that I know you're not looking to buy now, but you sure so might want to look at refi, right? Interest rates got as low as 2.25, 2.25. Like, they were that low. They're hovering, they were 3.1 when I looked the other day. I feel like I've been saying the word historically low interest rates for the better part of a decade, right? When I bought my first house in 1997, it was 8.25. My parents bought the house that I grew up in 82. Interest rates were almost as high as 18%. So when I say it's practically free money, it's because it's practically free money, right? So knowing your database and who owns their houses, and that there's value to be given to them through other avenues other than just representation in a transaction is important. You're going to have people that say, hey, I got laid off. Who do you know in the IT industry? You're going to have people looking for painters. You're going to have people that maybe look for architects to add additions or pools into their house. Having a valuable relationship that's wide on your vendor side keeps you in front of your consumer side. So you should always have something to talk to them about other than who do you know that's looking to buy this up? Because if that's all you talk about and all you beat on them about is your successes in real estate, they're going to go tone deaf on you. How does that feel? Does that make sense to you all? See, Kate's got somebody I'm going to sell a house to right there. We all have them. My son comes in all the time. It's all good. Is that boy or girl? Is that your daughter?
Yeah, she's 4.
Hey, we'll get her in a kitty condo. It'll pay for college when she's ready.
There you go.
And if you don't know what a kitty condo is, it's a valuable asset that you can help somebody buy that would help them pay for their kids for college in 18 years. It's not a real thing, but it's a conversation I have with people when it talks about investing, because people don't think about long-term wealth. They don't think about how they're going to pay for college and how having a condo pay for itself now and can be sold in 18 years can pay for college. Right? That's value. That's knowing your market. It's knowing your industry. It's knowing your consumers, that when they have a kid, maybe the investment conversation might make sense. So is it important to know that your clients just had a baby? Is it important to know that your clients who live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo that now have Irish twins, which is 2 kids under 2, does that matter? Because that conversation gets real hot and heavy real quick about that. I got to get out of this condo. So knowing things about your clients, incredibly important about how that conversation is. Now, here's the great thing. They have this thing called the phone where you can pick up and talk to people. Now, I know you're all terrified to use the telephone. Say yes, because you're all scared, right? I know it. We all hate the phone, and we think that, well, I'll just text them. I'm going to implore you to pick up the phone. Right, Ted? The phone is your friend. Get comfortable using the phone, because here's what I know. Outside of telemarketers, your friends aren't calling you anymore, and they're not receiving phone calls anymore. So be different. Talk to them, come for contribution, have coffee, have tea, get on a social Zoom. God, we're allowed to get out in public again. Go see people and have relationships with them. I'm passionate about this because I believe in it. I've been in business 14 years. I've seen people come and go. And the people that fail because they aren't passionate about their relationships. You get that top 100 as I started off this diatribe. And the reason I wanted to say it is this. If you have 100 people, those 100 people will either do a transaction or know somebody's going to do a transaction. 10 of them every year out of your top 100 would be able to either do or refer you business. Do you know what 10 units in transactions equates to in Northern Virginia? Anybody? Ted, your mic's off, but I'm sure you had something really important to say there.
I was just going to say a lot.
A lot. We're even down where Ted lives. There's nothing to sneeze at, right, Ted?
Yeah, we're all right.
Anywhere between $3, $5, $1 million per transaction, right? Going rate 2.5%, 3%. You're talking about 10 units. That's easy money when you're in a relationship business. Harvest those relationships. Have those people fight for you to get you that referral. All right, so let's get started about contacts, okay? We're going to talk about importing contacts, adding contacts to your data bank. Okay, yes, I said data bank. That wasn't a tongue twister. It's fact. It's where the money is. It's in your database, okay? We can import by a CSV file, or you can use that company I talked about, Scott Lorry Marketing, or your Market Center tech trainer can show you how to import contacts, or you can add them one at a time. Depends how many contacts you have. We'll talk about that. There's a difference between using Excel and Apple's Pages, right? Apple doesn't play nice. We kind of talked about that yesterday. So get used to using Chrome, get used to using Excel, right? They work best, okay? We're talking about health score. I just talked about how important it was to be in a relationship business, okay? Your contacts, your database, is going to have a health score, right? So basically it's this. If I have a relationship or I know somebody, maybe I have their name and email address. We give you points because we like to gamify things, right? We want you to get 100 points for each contact you have in your database. So what we've done is kind of like the SAT scores, right? If you can spell your name, you get points, right? I think they still do that. But in here, you get that too, right? So your contacts, you get 20 points. If they have an email address, you get 20 points. If you got their home address, you get 20 points, okay? All the way up to 80 points for those big four. Then there's a remainder of 20 points that are up for grabs for you, okay? Do you know where they work? That's important to know because people might have to move, right? Their company might get sold or their company might be coming to town. Or maybe somebody's moving to town, you can refer them because they're looking for a job. Knowing where they work matters. Okay. Maybe they work from home. Maybe they're a stay-at-home parent. That's okay. That's one of the hardest jobs there is, right? Do you know what their birthday is? You should, because guess what? Grandma's not even calling them anymore. If their realtor called and said happy birthday, it's going to raise you up a couple of notches, right? Because grandma's just getting lost in her Facebook feed and just saying happy birthday. Just saying, okay? Birthday, job score, lead source. Where'd that lead come from? How did you get that contact? Was it from a person? Was it from an open house? Was it from a lead gen resource? Was it an event you did? How did you get into a relationship with that person? Are they tagged? We're going to talk about organizing your database into buckets or tags, right? Are they part of your hockey crew, right? Are they from soccer? Are they from the PTA? Are they from church? Are they from your hometown? Are they from the schools that you went to? Are they from previous jobs that you had? Are they previous areas? Are they from college? Are they from high school? Right, those are all categories that I have in my database. And guess what? Those same tags I have in my database are also tags that I have separated my Facebook database. Because if you don't think Facebook is a database, you're wrong. It's the best information database you could have because guess what? Do people hold back their thoughts and their feelings on Facebook? Are they private and closed off? No. Okay. Vicky's yelling through her screen now. Right? People want recognition. You know why? I'll tell you why. So, guys, I think 7 years ago. I used to say 7 years ago. Now it's 14 years ago. Holy crap. 2007, when I started my Facebook profile, right? It was new to me, like many people. And my wife at the time was in security, IT security. It was her background. And was very cautious about what, and rightfully so, about the information we put online. So we put, bogus birthdays, right? My birthday was on January 1st, 1980 something, right? Goldberg's reference for anybody that's out there. Right? We put up fake information because we think we're protecting ourselves. Well, we were foolish because they have all the information anyways. But anyways, a year goes by, Facebook, but the next year, my actual birthday is on Facebook. Does anybody know why? And if you've heard the story before, you're not allowed to answer. Who knows why that my Facebook birthday was accurate the year after my first birthday passed on Facebook? Open your mics.
It creates engagement for people to reach out to you.
Well, it creates engagement, yes, but why was my birthday accurate after it was wrong? If I said I put my January 1st, 1980 something was my birthday that I put inside of Facebook, but that wasn't my actual birthday. Why was my real birthday there after 1 year? It's not as complicated as you think. I'm vain. I want people to tell me happy birthday on my actual birthday. So I corrected it because what I saw was all my friends were getting wished happy birthday on their walls, and 75 people were saying happy birthday to them, and I was getting it on the wrong day. You're laughing at me, but you know deep down, I'm right. You all want to be told happy birthday on your birthday, right? And it's a competition. Like, hey, you know what? Ted had 200 people say happy birthday. I had 201. It's real. So the reason I tell that story is because Facebook's information is incredibly valuable. So you will actually be able to know, look, I've got 1,500 friends. They're not really all friends. Most of them are like acquaintances, right? But their birthdays might be right. There's no way to know if they're right or wrong on Facebook, but I'm going to tell you, I tell you that story because the majority of them will be accurate because people are vain just like me. They want to be told happy birthday. So you can leverage that information and add those birthdays to your database and call people throughout the year, right? Now, if it's a relationship, maybe I don't know Ruby all that well, and I don't know if Ruby's birthday is on July 4th or not. I might question it because it's a holiday, right? So be conscious of the information. If it's the first year, the last year, or a major holiday, or the first month, the last month, I might question if that's accurate. Or if you're looking at me online and I said, hey, I was born on February 15th, 1997, I might be a little bit off, right? If you're looking at me. Let that date come and go that first time and see if grandma and grandpa and mom and dad said happy birthday on their day. Then you've verified that the birthday is accurate. And then going forward, you've got the real information. You can send cards, you can make phone calls, you send text messages. People say all kinds of things on Facebook. They had kids, they got new jobs, they're relocating. My gosh, Ted, what do you do if somebody says, hey, do you know a painter, a landscaper, and a decluttering company? And I ask all my Facebook friends, what should I start thinking?
What, if you're looking for one of those?
Well, if I ask those questions openly, publicly online, what if I know that person, what am I going to start thinking about them?
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously gonna engage. You're gonna get a ton of engagement as soon as you post something like that.
No, but I'm saying if one of my friends said that, am I going to think they're probably looking to move?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Do people ask those questions openly and regularly? Do you think those things? Then now that you're realtors, you're going to start being inquisitive. Oh, what did they really mean when they said that? Do they really need their grass cut, or are they doing something more? Right? Do they truly just want to paint that half bath? Or are they selling their house? You're going to start getting inquisitive by nature based on the things and engagement that your friends do online. So Facebook is an incredibly valuable tool when you look at it that way. So I know that's a long-winded way, but a lot of people don't think of it as a database and how that'll trigger the conversations for you around the contacts that are in your database. All right, we're going to talk about tags. We just touched on that. Custom fields. Right? There's static information. What's their address? Where are they from? Where do they work? But there's other questions you should ask yourself. And I'll give you one right now, and I'll show you how to build that. You should know about anybody that you put in your database. You should know this single question about each and every one of them. Do they own or do they lease? Mm-hmm. Do they own or do they lease? Because that elicits a conversation around a couple of different things that you should know about everybody in your database. I'll show you how to add custom questions. And then tags, when we touched on that, home, hometown, schools, sports, right? If you've got kids, your identity is lost. right? I'm just Connor's dad, or I'm just Dylan's dad, right? And all those parents I know because of hockey, baseball, soccer, PTO, church, little league, soccer, school, whatever my involvement is, my identity is gone, their identity is gone, and I know them through my kids. Kids are the greatest lead generation source known to mankind, right? Because you meet people easily. And surprising enough, you wear your realtor tag to a hockey game or to a soccer game, people ask you questions. Oh, you a realtor? How's the market? My gosh, that's the easiest introduction known to mankind is wear your name tag. If people haven't told you that, that's free advice. All right, so that's tags and custom fields. We're going to talk about filters and smart views because inside of Command, you can customize your displays for information that speaks to you because we all look at data differently, right? Maybe I want to see birthdays first. Maybe I want to see phone numbers first. Maybe I want to see their tags. Maybe I want to see when they last visited my website. Maybe I want to see when I created that contact. Maybe I want to see whatever it looks like. You get to customize your data, your display. So I'll show you that. All right. So let's, without further ado, let's jump into Command. All right. Everybody see my screen okay? Inside of Command now? All right. Awesome. Yeah. So we are on our dashboard. Remember yesterday we walked through everything. So every time you log in, this is the screen that you're going to land on. Okay. Now I'm going to go to contacts and I'll always click on this red dot just so you know where I'm looking at. But the red dot punches out our applets. But if you hover over the applets, it also tells you what they are. Okay. But I'll click on the red dot. We're going to go to contacts. It's the first one after the home screen on the left. I'm going to go into my data bank. And you're going to see a list of contacts. You may recognize some of those names. I have fun when I build up my database sometimes. And yes, I was in a Charlie Brown mindset when I added all these characters. So that's who they all are, in case you were wondering. When you load your database, you have a couple of different ways of adding contacts. Right? So on the upper right-hand side, you're going to see import and add a contact. Import, okay, allows you to bulk load information. So I want you all to do, and this will be part of your homework when you leave today, is go in here, click the download button. And what that's going to do is it's going to download a pre-mode, just like I said, CSV, which essentially is a glorified Excel spreadsheet. You guys see the Excel spreadsheet on the screen now?
Yes.
That will open up on your screen. Okay. Now, if you're migrating from another platform, there's additional conversation. So I don't know if you fall into that category or not. If you do, I'm going to recommend you talk to your Market Center tech trainer because there's a couple of things that we can utilize to pull data from other resources to help you. But today I'm just going to talk about bulk information. Not all platforms will allow us to sync. And sometimes you may be able to get a CSV or an export file from that other system where you just kind of cut and paste that data into these cells. And it's pretty static across top: names, email address, birthdays, right? We talked about that. Birthdays are important. I'm going to show you that you can actually go to Facebook and get everybody's birthdays. I'm going to show you where to get that. Home address, primary, other, they may own investment properties. All this information is there. Don't delete any of these columns if they don't apply to any or all of your categories because it's a mapping that has to take place. So even if they're blank, it needs to be there to map as we do the import. So don't change any of these category cells, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm going to kind of highlight a couple of important ones across the top. We talked about tags, and you had the ability to create custom tags. However, if you've read the Red Book, you understand their tags and categories come into play. So you'll see some of those here at the top: buyer, seller, bought, sold, agent, KW agent, allied resize, talent, referral, partner, downline. If the person that you're adding to your database on this particular line meets any of those, you simply just put a Y into that category, and it'll automatically tag them for you into your database, which is kind of nice. You don't have to put a no, you just put a Y if they meet any one of those. Now, at the end of that, there's a custom tags field right here. Now, custom tags, I want you to give some thought to. Okay, we're going to show you how to build them, but I want you to think through because garbage in, garbage out when it comes to your data. Okay, so try to be as organized as you can. And even though I'm a technologist, I still do a lot of things with pencil and paper. I always keep it at my desk, and that's how I work things out. I map things in my mind that way. I want you to write out anything in common that people might have in your database. I mentioned all those things already: church, school, hockey, soccer, PTA, jobs, high school, college, hometown. right? What do people have in common that you might need to segment out your database? Create tags for those. Build the tags first. I could actually build tags right here on the screen and create tags. The reason I don't recommend that you do that is because we're sloppy by nature. Don't take it personal. We just are, right? And this is case sensitive. So if I'm a Buffini person, which means am I using A's, B's, and C's? It's just it's a category way of tagging people. The difference between a capital A and a lowercase a means absolutely nothing, except in here is that it would create two tags. I would create a tag with a capital A and a tag with a lowercase a, and it doesn't notice the difference between the two. So I want you to be very organized. I want you to build your tags. I want you to print out your tags so that when you add people to your database, you're specific about the tags that you use. That's just me giving you a best practice because I've seen this happen. And instead of church, I called it the Presbyterian Church of Ashburn, right? And it's the same thing, but they end up in different categories. So be organized and specific about how you put everybody together. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Then there's notes. So if you wanted to put additional notes into a category, you can put up to 2,500 characters into a notes field that would load up into the database for you. Like if you were in business and you had a history with this person, you could copy and paste notes into that would come over. Sources, like where did they come from? For most of you, it might be SOI, which is sphere of influence. I'm going to show you a list of sources inside of Command that you could map people together, but sphere of influence is probably when you're starting where people are coming from, or maybe open house. They're probably the two most common ones that you would see. Social media. So the cool thing is here, we recognize that social media is a powerful tool. Now, most people are using Facebook at this point. If not, I'm going to highly encourage you to have a conversation with your MCT about building a business page, okay? Or creating a Facebook account if you don't have one. Different conversation. We've got to have mindset around that. But you could actually take their social media page. So if I took, right, I'm just going to log in here real quick. I'm just going to look up a friend. So I go to their Facebook page and then I copy their domain name and I put that in. I could paste that link to their Facebook page and it'll actually sync their Facebook page to their contact record inside of my command. And the reason that's valuable is at this point, it's just a hot link. In the future, maybe we read those pages and have informative conversations around, hey, you should call Ted today because he asked about a painter. Maybe that happens in the future. Wouldn't surprise me, right? But right now, what it allows me to do is I know that I need to call Ted for whatever reason today is. Maybe it's Call Ted Day, right? But I go to his Facebook page. I can get a quick background of what's been going on in Ted's world because most of our clients are open about what they're doing. So it gives you fodder to have a conversation around what might be going on if you haven't talked to them in a while. Does that make sense? All right, so that's the same with LinkedIn, Twitter. Nobody uses Google Plus anymore. That can be put to sleep. Instagram, and if for those of you that are still on MySpace, we need to talk. All right. That's the information that you can. You cannot add custom columns and you don't delete columns here. Right? I mentioned you could build custom questions. You just can't import custom questions. Okay. We can only use the import formats it's currently created. Fill this out as best you can with as much information as you can. And then you're going to zap it and load it into the system by just taking that file and dragging and dropping it right here. Don't be paralyzed that you think, I just don't have enough. Get as much as you can and start running. Right? Let's get you into business. Okay. Because you can always add more later to their individual contact records. Put information on what you cannot do. If I took all of you and I had you all on my contact form today with this 50% of the information, I can't go backfill that spreadsheet and load it a second time where it fills in the gaps. It doesn't work that way. So it's a one-time upload. I can go to the contact record and add more information. I just can't bulk load and overwrite a contact card. I get that question a lot. So I'll just answer it for you. All right, so that's how you import bulk contacts. Now there's the ability to add individual contacts, which more times than not is probably what you're going to do. Let me just kind of walk you through what that looks like, okay? So I might go in here and who am I missing? He's there. All right, today we're just going to do, I saw this, so I'm going to go Mr. Clean. All right, Mr. Tom Clean. I don't know who he is, right? All right. Tom Clean is something I'm going to add to my database today. And then it'll say, hey, add a relationship. So if Tom Clean was married to Mary Clean, I could add Mary Clean to the database at the same time as a spouse. What I have here is a relationship. You see, I have all these different categories. Like, you're basically building a family tree of relationships inside of your database and tying everybody together, because there's value in knowing who's all related. And then you'll do the same thing later when it gets to, if they're referring you business, where they came from. So you can add a bunch of information around here. Okay. Now, people ask me, when kids is the question I get a lot. Hey, do you add kids here? I'll add kids as a contact if they're over 18. If they're under 18, I don't create a contact card for them, right? I'll show you under custom records where I may put their names in there, but I won't give them their own contact card. To me, it doesn't make sense to do that at this point. That's just my personal opinion. I'm full of those. All right, then you'll put an email, phone number, okay? And you obviously have options for those because people have multiples. And then it says lead source type. Remember I told you that lead sources are in the system, and there are 92 different lead sources. So you can scroll through and see what those look like. And assign, hey, you know, they're, and I told you sphere of influence, right? This is the one that I use probably the most. Or I could select them from a contact, right? Maybe Tom Clean was a referral for me from Pigpen. So I could say that this contact made this referral to me. So I could tie them together in that mindset, right? So instead of selecting from a list, I could select it from the contacts already in my database. It's good to know who's referring you business, right? That's important. Mark them as a lead, or ignore add to sales pipeline right now. That's not functioning as intended. Mark as a lead. If I check that, that just means that, all right, Pigpen gave me Tom's contact information, but Tom and I haven't had a conversation yet. So Tom is a lead. It's not a contact because we haven't had a two-way conversation, right? I captured his information, but we don't have a relationship yet. When I pick up the phone and I talk to Tom, and he now knows who I am and why I'm reaching out to him, he's now a contact. So I will uncheck that box. That's a very simplistic understanding of lead versus contact. Some people think, well, lead means somebody that's going to buy something. That's not necessarily the case in the here and now. When I look at leads in my database, they're either somebody I have a relationship with, which means when I call them, they know that I'm a realtor, so they're a contact, or a lead, which is somebody's information I have, but we haven't established a relationship yet. That's how I differentiate the two. You can define it any way you want. I'm just giving you an example, okay? Then tags, right? Maybe Tom, I happen to know, is from my hockey, right? I have a hockey tag. I know I have a hockey tag in here somewhere. Oh, you know, I'm in my demo account, not my personal account. So I don't have hockey in my demo account. So he might be an A contact. A contact to me means that somebody, he knows who I am, and he refers me business. He's a top of the line contact for me, versus a C, which is somebody who knows who I am, but they haven't bought or sold or referred me any business. So I'll make him an A contact. Then below that, I've got add more information. How do they like to be communicated with? This doesn't mean anything in the system that sets up any integration. It's just notification for you. They prefer to receive information via email. They prefer that I call them. They prefer text, which is probably commonplace for most people. Or they prefer that I don't call them at all. It doesn't mean that they won't buy or sell from me. They just don't want to read. They don't need anything from me from a marketing standpoint. It doesn't mean I can't call them. They just mean from a basic communication standpoint, don't reach out to them unless I have a specific purpose to call them. If I mark do not contact, it doesn't prevent the system from sending out information, text, email, if I choose to do so. It's just for your own personal information here. Additional email, additional phone number, as we alluded to, people could have multiples, right? Address, right? You choose an address from the database. And the reason you choose it from the dropdown versus, you notice that I selected it from a list, because what that does, and we'll talk about smart plans tomorrow, is it allows me to pin that address to a map and send them information based on the neighborhoods that they live. If I type all this out, it doesn't make a connection to Google Maps. If I select from the dropdown, it'll connect. Now, there is that rare occurrence that you may be working on new construction or land that hasn't built out or been given an address yet. you just go ahead and type in that address and give it the best you can, and we'll work around it. But the 99.5% of the addresses are going to be available to you and inside the platform. Okay, so you always want to choose from that dropdown. All right, you'll see that social media profiles, I mentioned that you can connect those and you can also add more, right? See, MySpace is still there for those of you that still have it. And I actually never had a MySpace account, just saying. I want to be very clear about that. I actually was on a call one day and somebody's like, I had one. And they looked it up and it was still there. So it's kind of one of those things. All right, company name and work, right? Is that important? So when I moved here in 2012 from Arizona, a big thing happened. Exxon moved. Exxon had a headquarters here and they moved to Texas, right? So there was a referral base. If you had people or people that worked at Exxon, you knew that they probably have to move. So if you know where people work, information in the news may trigger conversations for you, right? Or maybe, hey, I have people that work for Amazon in Seattle, and I've got HQ in Crystal City. Maybe I know people that are coming. So where they work matters, because there may be referrals taking place or relocation taking place. Or maybe you have somebody that's moving to the area to work for Amazon, and you can connect them with other people that you know work there too. Just examples of how you tie people in your database together, okay? Then custom. Remember, I talked about that question that I want you all to have, and I'm going to show you how to do this here in a second. Do they own or do they lease? It's an option, and it allows me to track, do they own or do they lease, right? And you see that stamped as a default. Now, maybe I also want to know, so there's other questions I could have. I mentioned like birth dates, kids' names. If I knew if they have kids. Now, this is, again, I'm going to give you an example of the way I do it. Doesn't necessarily mean this is how you're going. You might just say they have Joe, Junior, and Tiffany. Okay. I don't like to string all the kids' names together because I like to put their names in their birthdays if I can get that. So I actually will have separate boxes. I'll have Joe Jr., then I add another custom field where I'll put in Joe Jr.'s birthday. Right? And then if I knew that, then I would add Tiffany. So I would cycle that through so that I can categorically add additional information if I wanted to. I'm going to show you how to create these questions in a second. That's just how mine works. Now, also, I want to show you that this was a default question, which was already surfaced to the contact card. And these other questions were not defaults, but they were things that I had hidden in the background that I was able to add. So there's a difference between a default question, which means they're on every contact record, or other questions I built that don't apply to everybody, but I might need to know about for some people. We good there? All right. Then you would click create that contact card. And it'll save Tom Clean to my database. See, he's right here at the top. Now, let me show you about creating your tags and creating your custom fields, but we also see now that Tom Clean is here at the top across my screen. I'm talking about filtering and customizing this screen in a minute. At the top of your page, under settings, right here, under your dropdown, on the left-hand side, there are command settings, and you'll see contacts. Underneath contacts, there's contact tags and custom fields. It's going to contact tags. You'll see these are the tags that I have already built out, and in your database, you're going to see system tags that are created for you by KW, right? So any of these system tags, which are those buyer, seller, bought, sold, they're already provided for you, okay? But then these other ones were created by, you'll see demo account, that would be me. I created these other contacts. To build contacts, it's as simple as hitting the create tag, the upper right hand side, give it a name. Okay. Give it a color. Think through the color scheme, right? If they're colleges or hometowns, maybe they're all blue. If they are relationships through my kids, hockey, soccer, little league, basketball, maybe they're all green. If they're business relationships, maybe they're all black. If they're vendors, maybe they're all yellow. So remember, you can have names of categories, but maybe the colors mean something to you too as a secondary level. Maybe it's a lead source. Maybe all lead sources, whether it's Facebook or realtor.com or open houses, are all blue. Just giving you ideas of how you might think things through differently, where regardless of what it says, you see the color and understand, okay, that's a lead source, or that's through my family. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so we'll go ahead and create, we'll give hockey a red, there's our team colors, and add. And you literally just go ahead, build and add. You can edit the names, right, or delete them and add. Just say I've got 44 different tags here. And if I can actually click this, I can say, hey, just show me all of them. Whoop. And they're filtered by name. Now, over time, we'll probably see different filtration things. We'll see a drop down here that actually probably give me a list of people that are on each of these tags, because we're constantly evolving the platform. This kind of work. This is a jumping off point. Any questions here? I just want to pause real quick around building tags. Straightforward, simple, right? You're going to have questions. Ted, would you do me a favor and share the, actually we'll do it under opportunities later, never mind. You might talk to your PC coach. Actually, you know what, Ted, yeah, I do. Add the daily 2 tags from the file drawer to the chat. If you go to the Facebook group under files, there should be the daily, the DTD2 should be listed in there. So just so you know, so you'll see like I have an A and W here. So you might want to filter your database by alphabet, and your PC coaches will talk to you a little bit more detail about this. But there should be a cadence that you call people in your database, like probably at least once a quarter. And so you filter them by their last names. And this D2 list just takes the alphabet and splits it in half into 13 tags. And you just tag everybody by last name by category. So here, so anybody that was an A or a W, I would tag A and W. And then when we talk about smart plans tomorrow, we'll talk about setting up call plans. So the system prompts you who to call on any particular day. So you never have, you take the guesswork out of who do I need to call today, because the system will tell you if you set it up that way. So Ted's going to share a link in the chat room of a list of what those actual 13 tags are for daily 2s. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was custom fields. And you see that they're here. Do they own or lease? Birthday, name, you know, what type of home do they own? That's a misspell. What was the pie choice? I'll explain pie choice here in a second. On the upper right-hand side, you've got custom fields. So what I want you to do is I want you to go in here. I want you to type, do they own? Right? And then there's field types. Right? And this time I already have this, which is okay. I'm just doing it for example purposes for you. I have an option of how I'm going to answer this question. Do I want a text field or a text area? There's a category number of count difference. Field is shorter than area. I don't know the character count. I apologize for that. Drop down. That's how you saw me do this answer before. I said I wanted to answer and then a drop down. I prefer drop down as much as possible. Let me tell you why. I was very focused in the beginning about how I enter data, because it matters. A question like this, do they own or lease, can be answered a myriad of ways, right? Ted lives in his parents' basement, and I might say that. Right? He doesn't own, he lives in parents' basement. But I don't want to answer it that way in a text field. I want to say he rents, he leases. Notice I said rent, but my question was, do they own or lease? So I could also answer rent. I can get creative in my answers. I want you to avoid being creative in your answers. I want you to be consistent in your answers so that when you filter by these answers later, just like tags, your answers are static. So try to be as organized as possible. And when you're answering certain questions, think through the potential answers. And does it need to be text where you can free type an answer, or can I have specific answers that make sense to me? And by me, I mean you. We good there? Ted, you love when you're on calls with me and I get to beat up on you, right? Awesome. All right, and then you see, right, there were other, right, so drop down 1, so then it's going to ask me to build those out. Drop down 1 or add drop down 2, where I would type own or lease. In this case, maybe rent. It's okay. There's no wrong answers there. I change this from drop down. I could have checkboxes, right? I could have a URL, which would redirect for whatever, depending on the question, right? I could have a number, right? How many kids do they have? How many dogs do they have? How many cats do they have? What are their cats' names? Or maybe they have 2 cats named Puck and Zamboni, right? People like to know what their pets' names are. That's okay. You can track that information. So you'll see there's all kinds of options here for you to answer when it comes to those categories, right? Dates are good. You saw me use the dates for the birthdays previously for the kids. One thing I didn't show you, sorry, it's it. Default was an option, right? So I had owner lease. You just click edit there. There's a checkbox at the bottom, which allows me to say, is this a default question or is it not? Remember when I answered this on the contact card, it was there and it was marked default, which means it's on every contact I have. I have the ability to answer that question. It doesn't force me to answer it, but it's available to me to answer it. If I don't mark it as a default, then it's hidden and I can add that question, just like I added the kids' names, to select from that drop-down menu. See, I have pie choice. Another perfect example. I have people that I give pies to for Thanksgiving. Our office actually does a big pie giveaway for Thanksgiving. We go out and we get 400 pies and our agents hand them out to their database. Now the agents have to pay for them. Our office doesn't buy them. But what most agents will do, you go broke if you give a pie to everybody. What I do is anybody that bought, sold, or referred for me, I give a pie to. And the pie choice option, I have pumpkin, pecan, or apple. And that's what we get pies from Costco. So that's my pie choice option. So I track what did they get last year. And when I call them, say, hey, we're gonna have the pies for, do you want pumpkin again or do you want to switch it up to apple? Just information that I know about my database. I've seen people collect all kinds of information here. Who their favorite superhero is, what's their favorite car, where do they want to retire? There is an infinite amount of information that you will get to know from people. And you may find that you ask people the same questions all the time when you get to know them. And that's what this is for. Because you have notes, but if you're asking the same questions all the time, why put all that information in notes that I got to go filter through? But if I'm asking people static questions, then I have the questions that I can pre-format and filter through later. So that's why I love custom filters and why I love custom tags. All right, let me come back to the home screen. And back into contacts. Before I jump in, any questions around either one of those, creating tags, creating questions? All right, very good. All right, so now we're on our screen. So I've got my database here. Some are marked L. Remember I said that if I mark them lead, how will they be showing up? They have this little green L next to them. Okay, that means I stamp them as a lead. Okay, Snoopy and I haven't been able to connect on selling that doghouse of his yet, so I'm going to keep calling him. When did I update? When I created? So your screen's going to look a little differently than mine does because I set up my display. Let me talk to you about how to set up your display. So first, you've got this customized columns, and that applies to this across the screen right here. Customized columns. You'll see the categories on the left that I can check boxes around information that I may want to know about somebody. Okay, maybe I want to add their birthday here. Check birthday. I don't know if I put any birthdays, we'll find out in a I can do primary. Actually, I'm gonna take off email, add birthday. We'll see if I don't know if I have any birthday information, but we'll go with that. And then on the right-hand side, I see that list. And the cool thing is, if you remember yesterday, I talked about the 6 dots. If there's 6 dots attached to something, what does that mean? You remember? It means I can move it. 6 dots means I can drag and drop. So that's pretty much standard for just for the internet in general. When you're moving things, if you see 6 dots, it means I could probably drag and move information around. All right, so when I click apply here, you'll see my screen changed. Birthdays are now in the first column. Created is now the second column. So my display of how I was looking at this data changed. And also what's changed, I now have this smart view change. This was not there before. So it recognized that I made a change to my display and it's asking me, do you want to save the changes you made in perpetuity? Which means the next time I log in, this would be my new display. So that's what this save change button means. You made a change. Do you want to save that change permanently? I don't in this case, but I could filter. And the cool thing is these filters I can change and filter up and down. So show me when these were created, right? Or show me when they last updated, right? When did I give the most recent amount of information? Last contacted means when did I last talk to these people? When did I last send them an email? When did I last send them a text? When did I communicate with them last? Okay. When did they last visit? Visit's different. When did they last come to my website? When did they last use the mobile app? When did they last respond or click on a link that I had embedded in one of my emails? Right? Different categories, different information means different things. Tags, I can see them right on my screen. Stage, we'll talk about that when we come to opportunities, phone numbers, et cetera, et cetera. I can change my display. I like this view, but I could also switch to a grid view. Doesn't work for me, but it might work for you. Just looking at information presented in a different way. And then also I only have 14 contacts right here, but you might have 100. You can filter your databases in chunks, 10, 25, 50, 100, 500, as you're working through your database. Okay, so you can change that display. And then depending on how many you selected, you would just toggle or jump to the end. That's what this does here. Now, I also have additional options that are hidden that you don't see right now. So I've got these check boxes here. Say check all of these. Now this opened up, bulk action. Okay, there are things that I can do because I selected all these people. There are additional things that I can do. Now we'll get into more details at different times and different categories. I just want you to know that there's a lot of other things that are triggered behind the back door. All right, I can add an activity. Maybe I called all these people today, or maybe I sent them all an email. Like say, hey, I did this. I can bulk tag. Maybe I need them, add them all to my hockey tag. Add, tag, hockey. Right? I created that hockey tag. Oh, they would all now have that hockey tag affiliated with them. Bulk action, mark as a lead, unmark as a lead, add as a smart plan, which we'll talk about tomorrow. Maybe I need to export them into a spreadsheet because I need to do something with all this data. I can export that data. I can create mailing labels. I can export into a PDF. Maybe I copy and share you won't use too much. We'll talk about that later. Maybe I need to archive, right? Archive means that it's the first step to deleting. Maybe these are people I'm not going to work with anymore. I'm going to archive them. So I can do that. So that's functions on the back end. Now, a couple things I didn't talk to you about is filter. So I sorted through columns. I set some of my displays up, but I can filter this data too. I click filter. I'm going to uncheck all these. And don't worry about lead pool. That only applies to if you're on a team. We'll talk about team conversations are a little bit different. Filter. I've got the screen. Do I want to see all contacts or do I want to see my leads? All right. Let's leave it at all contacts. Do I want to filter by certain tags? Okay. Show me all my contacts. Or show me all my contacts that I haven't contacted in 90 days, right? When you have more and more people in your database and you're calling them regularly, it's good to know who haven't you talked to in a while, so you can filter by people I haven't talked to in a while. Right? Maybe show me everybody that has their birthdays, within the next week. And I can filter out that way. Filter by phone number. And then there's branded to me. Well, next week we're going to talk about consumer and apps. And branded to me means they've downloaded and are using the mobile app and have created an account and they've identified me as their person. So that's what branded to me means. Okay. So I'm just going to click apply here, which is going to give me all my A contacts. So I got 3 of these, 14 are stamped A contacts. Okay. Now I've done this filter, and maybe this filter is something that I plan on looking at regularly. But you don't want to have to recreate the filter every time. So it's something, you have a system. If you're going to do it more than once, should be a way to save that. Well, there is. I'm glad you asked. All right. So underneath this box, because I was looking at all contacts, I have a create smart view option. So basically what that means is I can take this current display that I've created, okay, save it as a smart view. So what you're going to see now is that I'm looking at the smart view. It's checked. That's what I'm on. And I have this A contacts. Now, if I jump off of this and go, hey, show me all contacts, I've got my all contact display. But I said, oh, you know what? I want to go look at that A list again. I can go to A contacts and then it'll filter at that A contact display. But check this out. So all contacts, see how it's got updated, created, last contact? This display is different, right? If I jump to A contacts that I just created, I have date of birth over here. because I can have different display elements and customized columns vary based off of what that filter was. So the same thing I did before when I changed categories or columns, I would just come here, say, you know what, on this, I do want to see birthday at the top, but I don't need to see when they last visited or updated or career. I can leave created. I don't need tags. I don't need what stage, but I do want their phone number because maybe this is instead of A, maybe this was my birthday category. So now all I need is this thing because I'm going to call save changes. So this, every time I click on this A category contact list, this is the display that I'm going to get. So that's what I'm saying is that you have an unlimited amount of filtration you can do, save searches you can do, and the results display is at your disposal because you filtered them a certain way, so you may need to see certain bits of information at the beginning. Did I lose anybody there? I don't expect you to master all this. Just go ahead and play with it. There's no wrong, you can't break it. Right? Fix anything you can do. We can undo anything you can do. The only thing I can't fix is if you delete somebody. That's why there's a two-step process, right? You saw there was archive. Archive doesn't mean delete. Right? If I click on Mr. Clean here, and I click archive, he's not deleted from my database. He's archived. He's hidden. He's gone from my home screen. If I come back under settings, and go to contacts or command settings, and I go to contacts. Okay, there's a database wipe. Don't do that. That wipes your entire database. Two questions there, right? Or contacts archive, which is where I just put Mr. Clean. He's there, right? So now I could say, I want to delete Mr. Clean, or I accidentally archived him, but I want to bring him back into the database. So it's a two-step process there to actually forcefully delete somebody, okay? Jump back to the home screen and Mr. Clean will be back there. All right, look at that. With 4 minutes to spare. Oh, the one thing I didn't cover, sorry. Top right, there's these three dots. Some people call them three meatballs. I'm not sure I'm there yet. Where I can export all contacts. I can export a CSV file. And I can export a PDF. At the moment, just so you know, if I have husbands and wives and I've identified them as spouses inside of my database, it'll still export them all in separate columns instead of pulling them together as Mr. or Mrs. or significant others. They're working on that to kind of tie those together for mailing labels. But just so you know, when you export, they will be on different lines. We're working on tweaking that out. That's contacts. You gotta be amazing I can do that in an hour. Who's got questions? Not a single question. Were we listening? All right.
David, I have a question. So today I'm gonna import my contacts from the SOI list with my coach to comment, okay? So moving forward, I always need to add people in both lists, like, or just command and that Excel sheet that I had before where I imported everybody, I no longer add people there.
Yeah, that Excel import frame is just a vehicle to get everybody in bulk into your database. Going forward, you would probably just either A, add them as an individual contact, or if you had another grouping of 10 people, you would create a new spreadsheet. Because remember, it won't overwrite people that are already in your database.
Okay, and one more question. So let's say for one day, I leave Kelly Williams.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with our command? Like in everything that is in there?
No, that's a fair question, right? Still people come and go. That's okay. Your contacts is yours. KW is not going to keep your data, not going to keep your information. You literally just export the spreadsheet, take it with you, move it to somewhere else. KW is going to, they shut command down about 45 days after you leave, unless you tell us otherwise, because you may have ongoing business that you need to wrap up or get things out of. When they turn it off. And then once it's turned off, it's gone. They don't take your contacts, they don't take your database, they don't give it to anybody else. It's just, this is not what we do. Your database, your information, your contacts, you're protected.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. I was wondering about that. Okay.
Yes, great question. All right. Obviously, search is search. And this is a Omnibox. I leave this checked on everything instead of filtering by name or email because I can literally search by anything. Phone number, email address, home address. Right, I told you that 1600. Right, I put them in as his address. I literally searched by 1600. It recognizes that Tom Queen's home address was 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So there's Omnibox and search box. I just leave it on check for everything. Ted, did I miss anything? Oh, we lost Ted. All right, so it's 11 o'clock. Tomorrow, we'll be going into smart plans. So we'll be building off of your contacts there in your database. So today's homework is go in and start thinking about those 3 things that we talked about. Pulling a list of people together for that spreadsheet. Start building out, or at a minimum, start writing out what your tags might look like, right? And building them into the platform. And then at a minimum, build those custom questions or a custom question of do they own or do they lease? And think about what other questions you may want to have about people in your database. But tomorrow we'll get into smart plans. We'll talk about how set processes for automatic communication, whether it's email, text, or phone call. Sound good?
Okay.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
You have a good day.